right. Hello, my friend, and welcome once again to the Fit at Home podcast, where we believe when it comes to getting in the best shape of your life, there's no place like home. As always, I am your host, Matt Schifferly of the RedDeltaProject.com, along with my partner here, Al Painter. And we've got some exciting new tips for diet, workout, and resources to share with you this week that's going to take your home workouts and your home fitness to the next level over the next 7 days. So, Al, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, it's been a good week. It's been a good week. We got some beautiful weather here today. Pitchers and catchers report to spring training. So my hope does spring eternal from my San Francisco Giants to win the World Series for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll realize that there'll be a 500 team at best, and then a life of misery until October.
Yeah, I know how that goes. So tell me something new, something different and unusual that you have played around with and experimented with this week.
Something that's different than usual I've been playing with is rotation and more importantly, anti-rotation muscles. I've been just trying to see how I can hook up different types of resistance, like bands around my knees, on my back, and kind of like a half windshield wiper thing, and see if there's any ranges of motion I can't get to, or where there are things that are tight, and then try to figure out why. And then I've got one of those vibrating little massage balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I'm lying on the floor and I got a band around my knees, and I'm kind of half windshield wiping there, and I could feel some tension into that left lat, right? And for all of you listening at home, you can't see me, so I guess that explanation doesn't really do much for you. But I have a lat; it's on the left. You probably do too. So I felt some tension when my knees are going to the right. So I got the ball and I did some vibration stuff in that left lat area, and boom, gave me a little more range of motion. So I've been trying to play with that vibration therapy and just try to dig up as much information as I can as to how it helps the muscles and the fascia relax to increase your ranges of motion.
Fantastic. It's amazing what just getting a little bit of release can do for you, to just kind of release those sticking points, and suddenly your body gets more comfortable moving into bigger ranges of motion. That stuff is a lot of fun to play with, and it helps you really feel good too when you find one of those little sticking points or those trigger points, and suddenly you release and you walk better and you breathe better. And it's amazing how many hangups and points of friction we live with on a daily basis that we're totally unaware of until you release it. And then you start to wonder, how in the world did I live without releasing this thing? How did I sit like that and breathe like that and have that posture? It's really a very therapeutic aspect, not just for the body, but for the mind as well.
Yeah. It's a thing. I try to do things every once in a while, and your question, that is, the timing's perfect, that things that I hate doing because I'm not good at it, which is why I started to explore these ranges of motion to see if I've gotten any better at it. Because everybody likes to go with what they're good at, right? Nobody likes to work on the things that aren't fun, even us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are creatures of habit, as we know. And it's one of the things that gets us stuck more than anything else is when we have a vacuum of knowledge or experience about something, like we've never done a type of exercise or we've never learned about something, the first thing that we get exposed to tends to be the thing that we think is the whole deal. Like, oh, this is the answer. And we just latch onto it, not realizing, no, there is so much more out there than just that one approach. So I see this happen a lot in fitness when people say, oh, I want to start to eat better, I want to exercise, and they get a book or they find someone on YouTube with a video on something, and they take that first approach. And if it works even a little tiny bit for them, they go all in with both feet, and they think that's the end, be all end all. That's the best way to exercise. That's the best way to eat, and so on, because they know enough to have some action, but they don't know enough to know they're limited in their approach. It's more along the lines of what I'm doing this week that's very new is I'm exploring this new book. I've been doing a lot more reading and stuff. This is called Think Again by Adam Grant. It's a very interesting book, but the whole premise behind it is that learning and acquiring knowledge and experience is good, but more importantly, the ability to relearn and further assess and swap out and change our minds may be even more important, because having the ability to have intellectual agility and change things around may in the long run lead to far better success than finding quote unquote what is right to do and just staying that course forever. So your experience perfectly emulates that. That's very good there, Al. Why don't we jump right on into our tips of the week? So what is your number one workout tip that we can apply this week to improve our workouts for the next 7 days?
My workout tip for you, the listener, for the next 7 days is to stop the hop. Meaning, the best exercise program is not the one that's next or the shiny object that just passed you by as you were scrolling on social media. It's the one you're doing right now. Stick with it. How do you know if something's going to work if you don't finish the 4 weeks or the 30 days or the 60 days or whatever it is? You need to go through it to see if it works. A, to see if it works and how you felt, but B, to see if it's worth revisiting later on in the calendar year. It just, it's so funny, man, with our point, click, and get fit mentality that has just permeated our industry. The nuances of, that Jiro Dreams of Sushi approach of just mastering the mundane and treating it like learning a language and just incrementally getting better, rather than, oh, I haven't hit my fitness goals for the next 37 years in the first 3 days of this program. It's a piece of trash. I'm out. What's the next shiny thing that I can go spend my money on? Drives me crazy.
Diet hopping. I notice that really is a big thing, because what ends up happening is people will hop on something, start moving forward, and what really hurts them, because I know I just said like changing things up, changing our mind and stuff, but the point is when people change in their habits or the beliefs and stuff, what they're changing is they're changing for something better. They're going forward and saying, I did it this way, I used to believe this, I used to think this, but due to new information, now I'm making these changes and it's an upgrade. But with program hopping, what I find people do is they'll start from zero, they'll try something for a bit, they'll totally give it up, and then they'll go back to zero. And they just stay in this little cycle where they're not really getting anywhere. And as a result, because you try something for a while and say, it's not really working for me, it's like, okay, so what is giving you problems? Let's keep you going on this, but modify it if necessary, but keep going. Like, don't stop, don't quit, because if you resolve to travel 1,000 miles, you don't go 100 miles and then go back home, and then you just stay in that 100-mile range and you never get very far.
Yeah, when I learned that so well from the GMB Fitness Rings 1 program, because that is something that you've got to commit to. It's like binge watching a show to the end. You have to commit to that show, right? So you have to commit to this binge movement kind of thing, right? Where they build the dip off of some variation of an L sit, right? Or a high hold of some kind. And then it's like just a few reps, not all 10 reps that you're supposed to be able to do once you do. It is just a few reps. Get really good at those few reps and then do some more reps, right? I think that's one of the strengths of, Red Delta Project. I think what Tim and Jacko are doing over at their methodologies, School of Calisthenics, thank you.
Yep.
And GMB and places like that is they're trying to get across that improvement comes from those little steps done little and often over the long haul, as Dan John says, right? Be the best person on your block doing single leg balance, and then be the best person on your block doing single leg squats, and then being the best person on your block doing a single leg squat where you're reaching across your body, and then be the best person reaching across your body, pulling on a cable or a band or just something. But when you look back, be the best at boring later on, right? Then I think that's one of the biggest, if I could wave a magic wand for this industry and get people to understand one concept, just one concept, is that boring is where all of the exciting comes from.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good saying. I'm going to crochet that on a pillow. But it is true. Like in all of the activities I've ever done, from martial arts and skiing and bike racing and fitness and strength and building muscle and stuff, without exception, the people who get the best results and the best success are really good at the boring, mundane, basic stuff. Nobody gets good at anything fancy. When you ask the people, what do you do in your program? And they tell you and they write it down, people always say, that's it. That's all you do. And then be like, it's got to be genetic. No, it's because they're really, really, really good at those basic things. And that's the thing that we miss out when we program hop all over the place. And my tip is actually right along those lines on how you can continue to do that, which is to really pay attention to and try to maximize the range of motion of said exercises and movements. Because when I was doing a lot of strength training and stuff, I was always thinking, I've just got to do more reps or I've got to do more weight. And as a result, I started to erode my range of motion over time on a subconscious level. And embarrassing to say that I was full on that dude at the gym who had like way too much weight, and I'm moving it like 3 inches, right? I was the half repper. I wasn't even a half repper. I was like a quarter repper and stuff, because I thought it was all about if it's more weight or if it's more reps, then that's what counts, right? But when I started to get more into calisthenics training, I started to think more of, I've got to make it harder on a technical level as opposed to just trying to do more weight and reps. And so one of the first things I started doing was just saying, well, am I going all the way down to the floor on those push-ups? Like, am I really getting as deep as I think in those lunges? Am I really getting that last inch up to the bar on my pull-ups? And by doing that, one is not only did it make the exercise much more challenging and far more effective, but two, it also helped me finally improve a lot of the mobility issues that I was struggling with chronically through most of my life, especially my hips and my back and my shoulders and stuff. When I was younger, I couldn't reach my hand straight up over my head. I never could like touch my toes. I was so tight and stiff, and I was always thinking it's just me. But when you strive for as much range of motion as you can in your strength exercises, not only are you getting stronger, but I'm at the point where I almost don't even ever stretch. Like a good stretch, quote unquote, is a strength exercise that requires a lot of mobility. So you're getting two benefits. Yes, you may take a hit to your ego when you're doing this. You're probably going to need a lot less weight. You're probably not going to be able to do nearly as many repetitions. And that's a good thing, because it means you're making the exercise more challenging. When your numbers go down, it means you've discovered a new challenging level to the exercise. So you're getting more out of it, not just strength and everything else, but also mobility, and it saves your joints as well. So that's my tip of the day: of get as much range as you possibly can in every single exercise. And if that means decreasing weight and reps, you're all the better off for it. So there's my 2 cents for today. So let's jump into our next segment, which is our dietary tips for the week. Al, what do you got for us?
Dietary tips for the week, people. This time around, I'm going with, if it's possible, just in regards to weather in whatever part of the world you're living in at the moment, if you have a weekly farmers market, go and get your produce there. And or whatever you can get at the farmers market that you can also get at the store, wherever your grocery store is. I like the farmers market option, simply for the fact that things, in my opinion, which is in my not so ever humble opinion about fitness, I'm always right. Like Independent George. Anyway, things tend to be a little bit fresher. They seem to have a little more richness of flavor and a little more full body flavor to them. For instance, when we get our bacon there, Matt, if it's as thick as a leather belt, and it is the taste that just knock your socks off, man. And then you get the store-bought stuff, and it's just like, it's good because it's still bacon. And I'm convinced, much like coffee, it's never possible to have bad bacon. There's a difference in taste. There's a difference in taste. There's a difference in quality. It just doesn't. It's not as good. And vegetables that come from the farmers market, they seem to be juicier, maybe a little crunchier, maybe more colorful. So that is my tip. Plus, you're supporting a local business. You're in your community. Again, if it's safe for you to go and the weather is in your favor, then go to your farmers market for sure.
Outstanding. Yeah, out here in Colorado, we've got a lot of farmers markets. We had those in Vermont quite a bit as well. It may be a seasonal thing, but it doesn't take much to find these things too. I mean, we've got Google, if you just simply Google farmers markets in your area. And I know a lot of times people will say, oh, it's so expensive, farmers market. I've actually found a lot of stuff to be cheaper at farmers markets than at the local store, partially because you can buy things piecemeal. They're direct from the farm, and sometimes you're cutting out the middleman. So sometimes you can find some really good deals on stuff that's even better overall as well.
Yeah.
So very good. All right, farmers market right there. So my tip of the week, and this goes along with the first two ones that we talked about, is the exercise of portion control. Now, to a large degree, when it comes to people who are trying to change their weight, like they're trying to lose weight or they're trying to get bigger, they're trying to put on muscle and stuff like that, never underestimate the power of simple portion change or portion adjustment. Lots of times when people say, I need to change my diet, I need to go to a different diet, it's like you probably already, unless it's really obvious that it's unhealthy, like it's McDonald's every meal or something, a lot of people have perfectly fine diets as they are. They just need to dial the volume on. It's kind of like if you're listening to music that's too loud and you get like, I got my ears are ringing, I've got these headaches and stuff. What you're listening to is fine. You just got to turn down the volume a bit, or I can't hear it very well. Instead of listening to jazz, I got to listen to heavy metal because that'll hear better. It's like, no, it's not what you're listening to, it's the volume. And that's the same thing with food. So the recommendation is get fairly stable with your diet. So if you have consistency of how much you're eating from one meal to the next, or how much you usually eat for dinner, then adjusting your portion is pretty easy. You don't need measuring cups, you don't need scales, you don't need anything. It's just looking at the plate. If you make a meaningful adjustment in your portion sizes, you should look at it and say, well, that's definitely more than I'm used to, or that's definitely a little less than I'm used to. And that alone can take care of a lot of weight issues right there. Just that. So to wrap up with this here, this is my third dietary tip, and this is including the week 1, 2, and now 3. These are what I call my 3 Ps that I often recommend to people. So week 1 was get a plant-based food. Week 2 was get some sort of a protein-based food. And then week 3, of course, now it's portions. So I always tell people, if you keep in mind your 3 Ps at each meal, that'll probably take care of about 90% of your diet and nutrition needs, done. You won't need to, what kind of diet should I follow? What kind of macronutrient? If you get a plant-based food, protein-based food, and manage your portion control, just those 3 things alone will take you a long way at having a healthy diet. And you don't need to bother with all of this other stuff. But the thing about the 3 Ps is they also work with any sort of other dietary conditions you want. So if you want to be gluten-free, if you want to be vegan, if you want to have a paleo approach, whatever approach, the 3 Ps work with everything. But even more importantly, they're stealth. Nobody ever knows you're following them. So if you are, for example, I give this to a lot of people who travel a lot for business or used to travel a lot for business, and executives are like, I hate being on a diet because when I go out with the boys for a dinner after the big conference or something, I feel so self-conscious. It's like, no, you can make plant protein and portion control work with anything you're eating. So they love this approach because they keep those 3 things in mind while they go out to dinner, and no one knows they're trying to eat different or trying to be the healthy one while everyone's having fun. They still do everything, but they can still stay on track with their eating. So portion size, portion control of everything, portion, plant, and protein, that will take care of you. All right. And moving on to our final segment, segment number 3, a resource that you can use for the next several days to take your home fitness to the next level. Al, what do you got for us?
My resource for the next 7 days to help folks get a little more out of their fitness and movement habits at home is one of these. And for those of you listening, I'm holding on to a pencil.
What is this? I've heard of this ancient technology. What is this device you speak of? Is it compatible with Apple products?
This sorcery is just a good old-fashioned Ticonderoga pencil. And I like the big fat kid pencils. They're just very comfortable to hold. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the reason that the pencil is an amazing resource for fitness is because the pencil pairs up with the paper, right? And the pencil and the paper can be used to figure out, well, okay, I'm going to farmer's market this week. What do I need? These foods seem to help my body feel and move well. Let's put those back on the list. I'm exercising. How do I get to maximize my range of motion and make sure that the program or the strategy I'm using right now is working? Okay, I did this and it made me feel this way. This exercise reduced my range of motion. This exercise increased my range of motion. Okay, well, with my pencil on my paper, let's cross off the one that worked and maybe put a few stars that are check marks by the one that did. And if this one worked, what particular variations of the one that worked can I maybe try to see if those work? It's a very, I know it's really like, new age and everything else.
Well, it was very high tech. NASA was working on it for years, and they thought the public couldn't handle the technology, that there would be riots in the streets and it would upend society as we know it. So that's why it took so long for it to be released to the public.
Can't handle the truth. Yes, a pencil. That's my tip this week.
But you're absolutely right. The simple act of writing stuff down is enough to transform everything. Yep. Because it helps you memorize or remember what you need to do. Like if you just simply take a note of, remember this in your workout, keep your elbows in more when you're doing push-ups or whatever, because you can't trust your success to your memory. Writing it down, make sure it's happened. It helps you analyze and assess what you're doing. So it's amazing. It taps into a part of the mind when you just write down like a little diary or a journal of how things are going. Your brain starts to analyze and assess what you're doing and how it's working. And the answers you need just appear at the end of your pencil. It really is a magical process. And then finally, when you are writing stuff down, you're also thinking, well, how do I do this better next time? What can I do to improve my workouts, to improve my diet, to improve that chicken casserole recipe, whatever it is? You start looking for solutions, and then you're like, oh, I should put in more pepper next time. You write it down, boom, you've just guaranteed that you're going to be making progress. You don't write it down, you're leaving your results up to chance.
Yep.
Fantastic. Very good. Don't underestimate the mundane here, people. We're dead serious. We're not saying this as a joke. I mean, we're laughing about it, but we are serious about this stuff, how much it can really help you. And then my resource for the week is to go over to the local Home Depot or your hardware store, because a lot of the best fitness equipment you'll ever find is from the hardware store, and get yourself a pair of carpet sliders.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, carpet sliders. Now, you can find these sliding discs and stuff in like fitness equipment's websites and stuff, but my experience is that you get the exact same thing at a hardware store for like half the price, but it's exactly the same thing. What these are is people will oftentimes put furniture on these they're pieces of plastic with a foam top on them, so they can slide their dresser and stuff around the room or when they're moving and stuff. And what you can do is you can use these as an exercise tool, because giving yourself the ability to slide smoothly along the ground opens up this whole new area of exercises and brings new spice to common things like lunges. So you put your back foot on a slider, so you slide the foot back when you get into a lunge, and then you slide it forward. Great for hamstring activation. You can do knee tucks, where you're in a plank and your feet are on a carpet slider and you tuck your knees underneath and then you go back into a plank. You can also use it for things like push-ups, where you do a push-up on one hand and the other arm is sliding out to the side to make push-ups ridiculously challenging. There are so many different exercises you can do with these simple carpet sliders. They're super efficient. They hardly take up any space. They're extremely cost efficient. They don't take up any time to set up or anything. And they really help you amplify exercises to the next level in a very simple way. They don't take a whole lot of technical proficiency. They're not complicated to use at all. So go to the local hardware store, pick up some carpet sliders, a couple of those. Make sure they're big enough that your full hand can be on it. I know some of them are really small, like 2 inches in diameter. You want it big enough so you can place your full palm and your hand on it. So that way you're not rubbing your fingertips against the carpet. But it's really a fun toy to play with and can make a lot of exercises feel new and fresh again. So there's my tip.
Yeah, definitely. This morning, the ladies I was working with, I said, all right, let's get the sliders out. And they're just like, oh no. Right? Because the slider is the equivalent of handing somebody a 2 or 3 pound dumbbell. Because you give somebody a lightweight, they know that something horrible is coming. Yeah, definitely. I mean, isometric kickstand on one leg while you're making shapes or letters or numbers or whatever with the slider for time. Oh, yeah, horrible, but effective. Yeah, awesome tip. Right on, man.
Yeah, they're fun to play with. They're fun to be creative with too. Of course, there's tons of videos out there on YouTube. I'm going to be making a video of library of exercises you can do as well. So check Red Delta Project's YouTube channel in the near future as well. But they're just one of those things that can really bring a lot more to the table. And they're so simple and easy to use, relatively speaking. So let's wrap things up here, Al. What do you got going on tap for the next week or so for you?
Well, the kiddos are home from school this week, so I kind of put the pause button on actually being productive because they're home. And as you saw, Lily Bean came through and she's trying to come through again right now. And so, I think I'm just going to slow down and relax and just try to enjoy some time with the kiddos before they go back to class.
Outstanding. Very good. Always being flexible with what life is throwing your way. Outstanding. And we're getting finally some good snow and everything here in Colorado. So I'm looking forward to some good skiing this weekend as well. We got after that cold snap. So dear listener, if you want to reach out, of course, contact information is down below if you have any questions for us as well. And also list to all the resources we were talking about as well. Till then, we'll talk to you next week. Till then, stay strong and lead by example.